and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, and it is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here in the studio with you on this very, very frigid day in the state of Ohio, in the city of Dayton, in the studio of DATV, where I've had the distinct pleasure of doing this show now for over 14 years. A lot of people find that hard to believe. At the top of the list is me. It's hard to believe I've been doing this show for this long, and I'm officially a senior, a happy senior, proud senior, having to deal with changes that come with aging. And I share with all of you listening, if you live long enough, you're going to get older. It's a fact. Every day you're getting a little older. I say this to the benefit of young people because those of us who are there already know. It's a different world when you are over 60. It just is. And it's more than Medicare, and it's more than retiring from the workforce. It's the things that begin to happen to you. Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, everything begins to change. And so today's show and my next show, both shows have been very carefully thought out, looked at, and I'm going to talk honestly and openly with all of you, many of you that have been my viewers for years, and I'm honored to be able to share with you the information that I have gleaned in my financial practice, handling people's investments, insurance, banking, all that, as well as television, because they really aren't that different depending upon how you look at it. I'm going to talk today about whose report are you going to believe? And I'm saying this with no malintent on anyone. I'm saying this because given what's happening in our country right now, and I don't think there's a person out here that is delusional. I think all of us are scratching our heads, looking at our bank accounts. Hopefully you have sufficient resources, looking at things very differently than 2 years ago. Very differently. And I'm here to say to you that get used to it, because 2026 is going to be off the chart. You say, but money lady, how is this possible? And I'm going to tell you, because you believed a report that was not the truth. It's a reality. Listen. There are facts, and then there's truth. Now, as an economist, trained and credentialed, I am trained to look at economic data, facts. That's what I'm trained to do. I glean information daily that you as the public do not have access to. Or even if you did, you would not know how to interpret the information. You rely on other people with all kinds of agendas, I might add. And one of them is not objectivity, which is, can you just give me the facts, please? Well, people like me do that. We're paid. I'm not. I went into private sector, started my own company, and I never worked for anyone, so I was able to pull information and glean information, dissect information, and come to the truth, which is not facts. The truth. Let me give you an example, how it plays out. Our country's debt is so extreme, over, I think it's $31 trillion, and counting, because every minute we accrue an additional $100,000. I mean, those numbers just seem just overwhelming. Well, they are overwhelming because that debt and the payment of that debt and the interest, which is the cost of lending your money, the interest A bank charges you interest because you don't have the money to buy the item cash. And so they finance it and they charge you interest, which is a cost of you not having cash. So we've got a staggering balance and interest accruing minute by minute, known as compounding, as a part of the world of capitalism. Yeah, nobody told you that. Well, I'm telling you that now. So you got facts and then you got truth. So the fact is the United States is in a very, very bad posture and has been. We've been on this trajectory and most of us have just simply been asleep, because it's hard to wrap your mind around those kinds of numbers. We no longer talk about millionaires. When I was young, we talked about rich fat cats, millionaires. And the millionaires transitioned to billionaires thanks to Elon Musk, thanks to Bill Gates, thanks to Mr. Bezos, and a host of other men that moved into the category of billionaires. Wrapped around. Now we are looking at a category called trillionaires. Can you believe anybody has that kind of money? They'll be rich, kids will be rich, grandkids will be rich. This is stuff that is reminiscent of the Gilded Age prior to the Great Depression. Yeah, they weren't trillionaires. J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, all these men were super, super rich men, but nobody crossed into the status of trillionaire until Elon Musk recently was approved by his board for a salary increase. He's a trillionaire now. Well, I'm here to tell you, you and I are not trillionaires, nor will we probably ever be. Most of us, and I put myself in that category, are trying to make sense of it and trying to survive. Now, it may not be comfortable for me to talk to you like this, but this show and my next show, I'm going to unfold to you and unwrap right before Christmas, ho, 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 what is really going on, known as the truth. And in telling you the truth, I'm telling you I have reviewed the facts. The facts are what's available. It's data. It's information. We can access it through a variety of sources. But this factual data is critical for policymakers and people that are really in the know. They need facts. They'll tell you, I don't need your emotions, I need facts. You say, the food prices are too high, I can't afford to eat. That is a truth. The fact is, well, they are high because of tariffs. What? Well, I thought tariffs were penalizing all these other foreign countries. No. The tariffs are penalizing you and I for buying those products from those people. We pay the tax. What? That's the truth. The fact may be we got tariffs because they didn't do us right. And we're going to be great again. I'm here to tell you the truth, and the truth is, as I've said on earlier shows, long before this was put into place, that the taxpayer, the American taxpayer, who not only pays income tax to the federal government and state and local tax, they're now getting ready to pay tax on everything that is brought into the United States from other countries. That includes your most favorite avocados, big fat ones from Mexico. That includes the wonderful, wonderful fabrics and merchandise that are coming in from the People's Republic of China. That includes car parts, oil from Canada. That includes a ton of stuff that's coming over here to complete our manufacturing process. And who is paying the tax? Well, up front, when the merchandise comes in, the recipient pays the tax. But the recipient is not going to eat the tax. They're going to pass it on to you as the end user, as the consumer, as Elmer Fudd. You're going to pay the tax. And that money goes into the U.S. Treasury to help pay our bills, most notably our debt, which is enough to make you gag. Our great-grandparents would have flipped in the grave. I'm serious, don't visit a cemetery. You may be greeted by somebody familiar, like, what are you doing? And I won't even get into your grandkids and your great-grandkids who are going to be shackled with this debt. And with, God forbid, a continuation of tariffs to keep the American people from buying these goods. Well, I don't know who's sitting in Washington, but you must have something stuffed in your brain. Americans have been programmed to buy, thanks to television, which is incessant and 24/7. We used to have, when I was growing up, it signed off at midnight with all kinds of lines and buzzes. Now, the midnight crew they're selling everything, and we're buying everything. And in fact, I was reading, and the Black Friday that just happened was the largest retail sale day in American history. People were like, I'm buying this anyway. And it really didn't matter if I said, I need you to not do that this year. I need you to save your money. I need you to come out of debt. 34.9% interest on your merchandise is mafia. But that's what the banks are charging you for you not having the money to pay for the merchandise. I'm giving you facts. Now, the truth is, those facts tell a story, and that story is not a good story. What you're feeling while you're spending money like it's 1999, as Prince would say, what you are experiencing is what I call craziness, which is, I'm going to live my life. I deserve this. That's not a truth. That is a lie. Okay? And whoever told you that, I don't care if it's the television spiel, marketing on radio, literature, you don't deserve anything, period. And to use that type of a commentary to make you agitated and spend money, in my opinion, is evil. It's not even wicked. It's evil. To make you, a population that is not wealthy, that is scarcely middle class, because you're in debt, you cannot afford many of the things you could afford, and somebody's going to tell you that you're happy, you deserve it. They even got a song, you deserve it. Who is this, a man behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz? What? And yet Americans say, we believe you, because we're not interested in the truth, because a lie makes us feel better. And hey, whatever the facts are, interpretive. Interpretive. I've had people say to me, those facts can say anything. And my response is, that is totally accurate. but you're the one that's feeling it. And that's the truth. And you may not feel it on Black Friday. You may not feel it on Christmas. But when the bill comes for all those purchases and credit card transactions and everything you did because I deserved it, you're going to feel it. And that is the truth. See the difference? So the facts say, enjoy yourself, you deserve it, help the economy. You're not helping the economy. You're helping to get our debt resolved. And sorry, it's too late. When China pulled out of the market, China used to be our largest debt holder. Because they didn't spend any money. I lived over there. Those people don't spend any money, and they don't do credit cards. Zero. It's not allowed. They save, now they buy real estate, and they do other things, but they don't do what we do. I'm sorry, they don't. And they won't, because they are focused on building their nation state. They're years ahead of this country because they did not go into debt. But they loaned us money. But things began to change when the United States government credit rating dropped. Did you know that? Now, that's a fact. Back to fact. Moody's, these are credit rated agencies. Just like when you go to buy a car, they pull your credit to see if you are a good risk for the money they're going to loan you, unless you're going to buy the car cash. That's different. But the world rates countries as well, depending upon their rating, what they're willing to pay to buy your debt. What you got to pay them. And the United States has received 3 very serious downloads and downgrades. Moody's, Standard & Poor, and Fitch. These are agencies that I look to, and everybody else that is looking for factual information, because those facts are going to tell the truth in how they translate in the market. China said, I don't want to take the risk. I'm doing some other things. And they are now no longer number 1. Japan is. They're number 2. And I am going to assume that they're going to continue dumping our debt because they don't feel good about the risk. They think we're going to default on our debt. I'm telling you this. You're never going to read it. But people don't get rid of your junk if they're confident in the junk maker. They're not going to do this, but they did. And we didn't pay attention because we believed the report that said that we are doing great and that China is a problem. Well, if it's a problem, viewers, that started 50 years ago when U.S. manufacturers and capitalists, of which you are not, you're a worker bee, it's no sin. You work hard, you do what's right. But a capitalist controls the process. And they looked at China as like, man, we're going to go and do this. We're going to use those people to manufacture our stuff. They work for pennies. I know this. The one place that I used to have my dinner, the people worked at a manufacturing company that was a U.S.-based company during the day and at night, and they made, listen here, 25 cents a day. You say, what? That's why they're over there, and that's why they're not paying you, because they can do that over there, make a ton of money off the backs of other workers in another state, nation state, and bank it. That's why they're billionaires and trillionaires. It just didn't happen. You make your profit by underpaying and undercutting your labor force. The U.S. should know this. We haven't had a pay increase in the federal minimum wage of, I think it's $7.25. Did you hear me? Who in their right mind can live on $7.25? But that's a fact. But the truth is, because of the low wages, you're struggling, and you've been struggling. And the only reason you've been able to make it, here's the truth again, is because you have used credit cards and installment, monthly payments, to cover your lack of income. You're working 2 gigs after paying federal tax, after paying Social Security, Medicare, state law, after paying taxes. You're like, I'm not making any money. No, you're not. And they never promised you in the Constitution that you had the right, that you deserved. Remember the mantra, you deserve. They never said that you deserve to be paid a living wage. They didn't say that because they're not going to lie. They're not going to tell you something they didn't say. They said that we have the right to pursue. They didn't say you're going to get it. We have the right to pursue happiness. Well, that's interesting when you don't have any money. But, again, fact is not truth. Please know the difference, because we are now experiencing in our country 24/7 the truth. And here is the truth. The fact is you didn't make any money. The fact is the statistics say that the average American retires with less than $25,000 to their name. They better keep Social Security around. They better, because people do not have enough money to retire comfortably. That is the fact, based on a history of low wages and using credit cards to finance. You deserve it. They are horribly in debt and cannot figure a way out. If they could, they wouldn't be in the situation they're in. I will tell you, as an advisor to seniors on retirement for years, the thing that so disturbed me was, how are you going to afford to retire? I can't stand it anymore, is what I heard over and over. It didn't matter whether they black people sitting at my table, white people sitting at my table, Asian people sitting at my table, Latinos sitting. They were all saying the same thing. We deserve better. We can't make it like this. And my response is, but you waited all these years to come to that conclusion. Why? Because you drank the Kool-Aid. Because you believed what they told you. And it's not the truth. The truth is, in America today, retirees are having a terrible time. Now, there is a level of retiree that's doing okay. But the majority of retirees, I'm sorry, this is the truth. The facts will belie it. But the truth stands. Because after you retire, nobody tells you that your health starts going down to a toilet. Yeah, the baby boomers are hobbling around, getting all kinds of surgeries because, hey, I deserved it. Hot pants. Well, teeth. I eat what I want. Well, can you afford a dentist? Can you afford dentures? $3,000 and more. Can you afford all that from your personal savings? Since rarely are those types of needs covered under Medicare. Oh, well, I didn't think I'd have a need. Well, you decided wrongly. So, back to facts versus truth. Then, and I hate to say it, but I'm beginning to think it, which is this news real or not? Or do they dumb it down so we never really get the truth? We get all kinds of facts, oh, this, that, that, but we don't get the truth. Here is a truth right this minute. The media says we're doing great. Manufacturing, plug, 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 plug. Who do I believe? When the Manufacturers Association says, and this is the truth, they say we're in our 9th month of declining manufacturing. In fact, we are now below 50, which puts us seriously at risk as a manufacturing hub, as well as recession is on the horizon. Well, do you believe the media or do you believe the Manufacturers Association? Because their business is about making sure their membership knows the truth, not somebody's touchy-feely lie. Now, what does that mean, viewers? If manufacturing is declining here, I'm not talking about imported, that's another story and another show. But if manufacturing is declining here, what does that mean for the worker at that manufacturing facility? Well, since the motive in the United States is profit, and they're not making any profit, then they're going to have to lay off people, furlough people, terminate people. This is in motion. We have been in the alarm state for the last 4 months. Public information. But who wants to read that? What does that mean? Well, the issue is, what does it mean for you and your family? And if you've never been taught how to look at the facts and come to the necessary pain associated with the truth, you'll be completely blindsided. I just had a conversation yesterday, in fact, with an individual who did not believe me 2 years ago when I told them, I need you to stop spending. There's only one shoe you're going to wear at a time. You got too many shoes. Sell them while people sell them. Put them on Marketplace with Facebook. Put them on Nextdoor app. Put them on Poshmark. Put them out here and get them sold so you can get cash and begin to save your money. They said to me, now mind you, I am professionally trained. It's not personal. I look at that all the time. They looked at me and said, I don't believe that. I think you're being too intense. I tell them, don't you know I'm saving? Don't you know I have a garden? I've had a garden, but it's getting bigger. Don't you know that markdown meats are not bad? Freeze them and then cook them when you thaw them out. Well, they have a restriction because they don't want grocery stores selling contaminated meat. That has nothing to do with you. Clean the meat, package it, and freeze it. So you'll have meat when meat is too expensive to do otherwise. Let me keep it even realer. If you have little people, babies, have you looked at what formula costs now? For a jar of Similac for your baby, $61 for the jar. Lasts about maybe 2 weeks unless you have a very aggressive little baby that's hungry, and you will need more than one. Who can afford that and live themselves? Well, historically, we had a government program called WIC. I hope you're listening, particularly you women who have babies. Funding ends into December of 2025. There's been no indication they're going to continue the program, and I'm going to tell you, that hurts. That doesn't hurt the trillionaire. It doesn't hurt the billionaire. It doesn't hurt the millionaire, but it will hurt your grandbaby that your daughter has that you adore. Who's going to pick up the slack? But everybody's talking about, oh, not a problem. I'm here to tell you the facts don't line up with the truth. And I need you, if you would do, humbly I asked you, as the money lady for 40 years and counting, 74 years old. I'm not a spring chicken. I got good genes. It helps. But I need you to come away from your reality TV shows, to come away from all the games that you're not winning. It's a distraction to take you away from the truth, which is get your act together. Stop playing. Your family is going to suffer. I had the distinct pleasure of watching a documentary on FDR, in my opinion, next to Lincoln and George Washington, who was an outstanding military man. I watched this whole thing about this man, the only man in history that was president from the Great Depression through World War II. And you know what? That was an anomaly, and I hope nobody else gets to serve that long. That's too long. It aged him and then it killed him. But he is also the visionary that cared about working people. And what he did that was so revolutionary, and go back, you can Google it. And in fact, Google the documentary. It's on history. He told the super rich that if you did not ante up this money and have these people working, because under the Great Depression, 50% of the workforce was employed. Everybody else was scraping. Famines, everything. And he told them, the people need to work, and you're going to finance it through the federal government. And they were like, no, we're not. And he said to them, and it was remarkable, you better rethink your attitude, because their numbers are so much greater than yours. And have you not taken a look at France and Napoleon, and when Miss Josephine said, let them eat cake, are you not conscious of what they did to all those rich people? And you know what? They were madder than a hatter, but they anteed up all the money that is responsible for the dams, for the roads, for the infrastructure, and more significantly, they put people to work. All those people in the mountains of Tennessee and Kentucky, my home state, poor people, scrounging around, they had jobs, they had dignity. And we came up out of this as an intact democracy. Yes, we did. Now, there are a ton of people that cannot stand this man. He's gone, his wife gone. But they can't stand him because he made them do something they didn't want to do. He put in Social Security because he said these people are starving. They cannot live as elderly people. He put in unemployment. Yes, he did. You need to be thanking him. He put in a lot of things that were powerful. Social Security. Oh my word. Yeah. Socialism. Right smack dab in the middle of capitalism. And told them, you're going to fund it. We don't even have the courage to make these people accountable today. Period. Have you all thought about this? It is absolutely wretched and savage. It distresses me, so I don't want to talk about it because, number one, I love babies and I love children. I don't care what color they are. There's something wonderful and innocent about them. I don't want them hungry. I don't want them homeless. I don't want them mentally challenged because they're watching all this stuff around them. and they are acutely aware they don't have the power to make change, but they do know that adults are responsible for this. And no, they don't lump working people versus rich people. They say all of you all are jacked up. And there is going to come a time where they're not going to be children. And you know what? I hope I'm on their good side. I really do. Because otherwise, it's not going to be a pretty picture. It's like FDR said to these illustrious rich men. You going to pay. Your wife going to pay. Your dog, your cat, your kids. They're going to kill you. And as much as we don't like to talk about these things, I am telling you, and I've said it on earlier shows, a hungry belly is the beginning of a revolution. Homelessness is a prelude to emotional wreckage. Homelessness in America is a rapidly growing fact. We've always had homeless people, but now we have people that are jobless, cannot maintain their homes or apartments, have been evicted, have been foreclosed on. Does it sound like 2008 with the housing crisis? Yes, and worse, because nobody is bailing these people out. In 2008, President Obama saw we was in a real mess because homelessness causes all kinds of other things. Truth, fact, homelessness. Truth, you're asking for it. Now, for those of you that consider yourself conservatives, I don't put titles on anything. I do say that hungry children, hungry, starving families will make their mark. And you think we're just seeing a little bit? Oh my gosh. You have not looked at Germany with somebody rerun why Germany blew this world into not one world war, but two. And truth be told, if that bomb had not been dropped, those two bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, that's a whole nother story, why they didn't drop the bomb in Germany. But they did. And you know what? That war concluded because at the pace that the German nation was blowing up everybody, it was just a matter of time before we were next. As I tell people all the time, all because of hunger. All because they couldn't afford food. Oh, what's the big deal? Be hungry. Or if you are hungry and you don't have a means to fill that need, watch your behavior begin to deteriorate. Really. Watch how you begin to shift. So when I tell people, oh, please stop painting me, the Wizard of Oz stuff. This is not the Wizard of Oz. This is real life, real time stuff. So the question is, and I asked myself this, and I asked myself this on the way to the studio this morning. How did we get to a place in history where we only think about our own well-being and don't understand that we're tied up into everybody else's stuff? That for what you do, it has impact on others. And I'm so real about this. There used to be a time, and I can say that having been a Kentucky girl, where we all knew each other. We knew the local alcoholic. We knew the local tramp. We knew who was in church on Sunday and who was someplace else. We knew this about each other. We were rural people, farmers, very low-paying jobs, and yet we knew. And nobody was going to be hungry, not as long as we were growing food. There was no such thing as an empty shelf when you're growing food. Now, for you city slickers, go to the grocery store now. I was there last night, at the top grocery store in this area, and shelves were barren. It looked picked over. And I asked, because all the bananas were gone, I said, "Are you going to get any more bananas today?" And the man looked at me and he said, "I don't know." I'm like, not to be crazy, but you don't know what? He said, "Well, trucks didn't come. So there's no bananas, and there's no whole lot of stuff." And I said to him, "What guarantees do you have that the truck is coming?" And he looked at me very politely and he said, "Ma'am, you're asking too many questions. That was a sign. That was a truth. I didn't miss it. That's not going to be on the evening report. It isn't. You'll be looking at somebody killing somebody on the evening report. Are they killing you? Is your family impacted? Why are they killing anybody? Because mental illness is rampant, because people didn't get it worked out, because trauma is real, because hunger is real, because job loss is real and growing. And not everybody has coping skills. Can I be frank? When you got pressure coming down on you with your children, your wife, no job, no unemployment because they're struggling with that. Yeah. A federal state program funding, dealing with Medicaid, none. Yeah. 25 million people off the rolls with the Affordable Care, can't pay premiums. Who can go from $0 to $1,000 a month? Who can? Nobody. I'm putting this before you as truth. I don't care what any politician, Democrat, Republican, I don't care, because at the end of the day, it's about you understanding what truth looks like in your own personal space and with your family, and not sitting in front of the television looking at news, playing and looking at sports like you can play football. Really? Oh, but I like to watch it. You better be watching your family. You better be looking for ways to get other income. You better be looking at this country as a bad dream. Okay? It worked for some. Woo-oo! But it didn't work for most. It worked for a little bit. After World War II, the government was financing homes, FHA, VA, and homes and cars, and we just had it going on. But we did not have the understanding that capitalism only works when you can continue to dumb down the working population. You got to lie to them a lot. You got to make them feel that they're a part of this dream. You got to make them feel that they're better than other people. Although most of them, if their parents would tell you, came over here with not a dime. And they were able to work their way up. Never rich, but certainly never Europe. Oh my God, Europe. Don't brag to me about the Irish when they were letting the Irish die. The potatoes didn't make it, and they starved, and nobody was willing to help. Don't talk to me about the Christian movement in Europe, where they had to flee, or else they were going to be cooked. Let's not talk about those things, because they don't make you feel good, because that is the truth. The fact is, all of these millions of people came over here because they were told to believe it was better than where they left. But when it is not materializing now, well, what are you going to do? I'm just asking. What are you going to do with these facts to change them into your truth so that you can begin to change your story? We've had a Great Depression. We've had economic mess. And we're in it again because the tariff is not going to work. It is not. And how the heck, and I'm just being honest, why are we giving money to all these other countries and we're in a pit? Oh, because we're not in a pit, because Ms. Graves, you're making all that up. I deal in facts, and the facts are available to anybody that will take the time to read the data. We're America. We're going to work it out. And I'm telling you, how it gets worked out is not something you control. And that is an annoyance to me. If I'm going to give $40 billion to a corrupt country when my own people don't have jobs, with $40 billion, we could build manufacturing facilities, have them work for our own people, and feed each other. For real. We can. We do not need subsidies from other countries in the form of them shipping their stuff to us. We can do it ourselves. But that sounds too much like work. And everybody globally knows that Americans are just lazy. Well, I don't believe we're lazy, but I do believe we drank the Kool-Aid, which is, I deserve this. That's too much work. I can't do it. Okay? That is not a good story. Okay? And I'm saying to you that you and only you can make the decision to change this story. You can. This country was not founded to make you rich. This country was founded to make you free, because Europe was definitely not free. I mean, in England, oh my God, please. The stats say here, facts, only a few Americans have passports, and only a few Americans have seen the world. Those with passports may do ship cruises. I'm talking to you, boots on the ground, when you see other people live. And thanks to the technology today and the Reels platform on Facebook and others, you can see how people in other countries live. You can see that it's not a cakewalk. You can see that every day they have to fight for their food, including fighting animals who say we got just as much of a right to eat this food, including you, as you do to eat us. So the world is very matter of fact about these things. And I need you to be just as matter of fact about the truth, so that you will not be a victim of the lie. And the lie always paints a picture. It always does. The economic lie I'm talking about, because that's my field, that we're fine. Really? Only an idiot would say we're fine with the kind of debt we have and no way to settle the account. Maybe we should file bankruptcy. Everybody else does. And we do need help. Okay? Maybe that's an option as we move forward. But my point in this whole discussion, and it's beginning to sound like a monologue, although I hear you all in the background like, yeah, I need you to feel that pain. I need you to look at your neighbor with compassion and not contempt. I need you to stop spending money you don't have to buy things you don't need, because the marketing spiel has suckered you with, you deserve it. No, you don't. You deserve freedom if you say so. And freedom was at a high cost in this country. Period. Did you forget Vietnam for freedom? Did you forget Afghanistan? Did you forget all our veterans that are maimed and messed up because of decisions of people that weren't you? To make sure that power relationships stayed intact and then sent your sons and daughters to fight for them, not for us. We lost in Vietnam and brought all of our men back home crazy. I mean, guys that were normal when they left, that was my generation, came back nutty as a fruitcake and strung out on every known form of drug. We lost the war and we lost our minds. So I'm not a peacenik or anything like that, but I would like to keep my grandsons home. I don't want them going to anybody else's war to make people money, BlackRock and everybody else, billions of dollars on the necks of our children. Can you remember? Mothers lose sons permanently, and now daughters, same pain. So, when are you going to push yourself off the lazy boy, begin to look at your situation and make determinations as to what you are going to do and your family? I don't have an end of the story. I have the story. I'm not laughing out of amusement. I'm laughing because I know that there's some of you out there that are like, oh, my heart, my heart. Yeah, truth can do that too. But just know if you have a heart attack in America with the healthcare system where it is today, well, I hope somebody can get you to a hospital. Don't be in a rural community where there are no hospitals now. And there are very few doctors. My beloved family member, they have no hospitals in the area, and she had to be rushed to a hospital that was 2 hours away, to a doctor that was, and they began to say she died. And at the funeral, many of my family members and kinfolks, on white and black, because in Kentucky it's everything, and they said, Michelle, that's not right. I told them, well, do something. Well, we don't know what to do. You got politicians. You know, we got them. Well, they won't listen and get them out. This is not complicated. Okay? And begin to learn about how to live if you don't have a hospital in the vicinity. Okay? Like herbs and the things we did before we had all that fancy stuff. Eat right, live right. Stop eating canned food that has no value. Do those things for yourself and your family so that we don't have to have a 2-hour drive to visit a family member because there's no hospital. You think I'm kidding? You need to look around. In Cincinnati, Ohio, Drake Hospital is permanently closed. Fabulous facility. Rehabs, pools, gone. Nobody believed it as they locked the door. See, it's not based upon your perception of facts because everybody thought Drake was fine. But the reality is that Drake was hemorrhaging and soon to close because it does not matter who you are. If your institution is not making a profit, then you got to go, or you got to re-strategize or something. What do we have at stake here in the days ahead, viewers? Everything is on the table. Everything is on the table, including your life, your health, your financial security, and your well-being. That's on the table. Right now, look at everything from that perspective and make a decision that I am not going to be a statistic, that I and my family are going to step it up and make some radical decisions. The same radical decisions that put people on boats going to Rikers Island in New York with nothing. Nothing. A reference from a relative, maybe, but they had nothing. But this is what they did have. They had hope, they had faith, and they got it done. So what is your excuse today? I'm Michelle Graves, affectionately known for 40 years as the Money Lady. And I thank you for being a part of my television audience. And if you have questions or concerns, just reach out to me to my email, michellegraves.com. You can send me anything you want. You can also read about who I am, michellegravesonline.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Even if we don't agree, show me a better way. And God bless you and take care of you in the troubling days ahead. Bye-bye.